Cool, so let's get back into it, and I think I'm going to use a little bit of a hacky approach to fill in this side vent on the car. Let's bring back my reference, let me close that, to bring in this little detail here, and I think it will help us with terminating some of this as well. So first thing, we're just going to do a little bit of cleanup and check that we haven't got any weird lumps, so I'm just going to pull this in a little bit, just kind of looking for any like tension where it just looks like things are a little bit strained and not following the curve that you would expect. So just going to push that out a little bit. Okay, I think that'll do for now. We're definitely going to end up fixing some bits. I'm just going to pull this up, so I'm going to tap G twice and slide it up. I think I've lost my screencast keys here, so I'll turn those back on again. We're just going to slide that up a bit, make ourselves a bit of space. And I'm also just going to go to the top view, and this line here is looking pretty wayward at the moment, so we're just going to just nudge things back into a straighter line. It's looking better, and we're just going to slide about. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to select, let's go into vertex mode actually, so I want to go into vertex edit mode, and we're just going to control shift our way around to select all of these edges, and we're going to hit F to fill it, and that's going to give us one solid face. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut straight onto the face. So if we turn back our X-ray mode on, and then we're going to use the knife tool, which I always use the shortcut so I can never remember which button it is. Is it this one? Yeah. So I use K to access it, and we're just going to cut like this around the inlet. So I'm going to try and keep it to 8 sides. And I'm going to do the same thing here, so I'll start a new cut with the K key. And I'm just going to do the same thing. Okay, and then we'll turn off X-ray mode. So we've got a bit of a mess, like this is not good geometry. Yeah, but you might also decide that you're happy with that and it works. And we could, honestly, because we're making a low poly model, we could leave it. But let's try and get these into quads anyway. So we're going to select these two faces and hit X to delete those faces. And now let's look at how we can join them up. So let's start by being sensible, and we're going to connect these two. So we use the J key, not the F key, to connect. J, and then we can put a subdivide in here. So we're going to select both of these, right click and subdivide, and that will make a new vertex, and then we'll connect those up. So we've got quads there. This now gives us a quad, and this gives us a quad, so let's go with that for now. If we connect these two up, we've got a quad there and a quad there. Now I think things are going to start getting more complicated. So if we connect here, 1, 2, 3, 4, so that gives us 5, so that's no good, let's not do that yet. Let's connect here, so that's one quad, and then we're going to connect here and here, and we're going to delete this edge. So right click, delete edge down at the bottom. We might just need to fill in this face again. Okay, so quad, 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 and then that gives us a quad here. And then we're going to have to do a similar trick here, I think. So that's going to give us a quad, and we might need to come up with a new solution here. Let's just check if we've got any other obvious connection points. So we could do a quad here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 5 at the moment. I think we might have got ourselves stuck. So the solution to that is to put another edge through here, and then if we connect like this, we've got quads. So look, it's not perfect, but it does the job. And also at this point I'm going to confess that we've got a little bit off the blueprints, but I think we're close enough. Nice. And you'll see that when we kind of do some smooth shading, this should all resolve nicely. So we're now going to select these edges. So Alt Shift click on each edge, and then we're going to hit E to extrude, and then X to pull it back in. And then we're going to tap the full stop key, the period key, and choose individual origins. We're going to hit E to extrude again and S to scale. Oh, and we're going to do something, it gets very sensitive for me, like that. And then let's just terminate these off neatly. We could just fill this face, but let's do it properly. So we're going to make a quad here, so these four, and then we should just be able to tap down like that. And we're going to repeat that on this top section. Bingo. Nice. So there's a little bit of bumpiness in there. Let's see how things look when they're smooth, and we'll work out a plan. We might need to rework this in some way if we find that it doesn't work later on in our geometry, but it's a starting point. Sorry to all you topology geniuses that find this massively offensive. Also here, let's do the door handle as well. Similar technique. So I'm just going to hit E to extrude in, and on the X, and then hit E to extrude again, and scale, and then F to fill. That's the door handle done. Okay, so let's have a look at the back bumper. And I think there's a little, I don't think this bumper's in the right position here. I think we might have the same thing with the front bumper actually. So let's just bring this round into place to start with. I got too excited to get on with the rest of the course. Okay, so let's bring this round. And let's just check that we're looking okay from the back. So we're just going to select all of this and hit Shift and H. Okay, so that's kind of in line. Let's just try and match up this curve a little bit better. So I'm going to add another vertex in there with Control and R, and then if we select all of this, loop tools and relax, it should smooth my curve out a bit more. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with how that tapers in. And let's also have a look at this wheel arch here. So this needs maybe 2 to bring it into line. So we've got the fundamentals of it. And let's look at the side view. So it looks like this part tapers in. So just turn off X-ray for a second. And we're going to select all of these. Let's get that one as well, I think. And then we're going to go to the side view and extrude down with the E key. And then S to scale. Pull it back so that's kind of looking about right, I think. And we will now have found that we've gone too far in on the X-axis, so we're just going to hit S to scale on the X again. Pull it back out so it's kind of closer to where it should be. In fact, let's scale it slightly on the X and then just pull it over on the X as well. So I'm going to move it slightly so it's still got that little step in. And then we just need to combine this vertex and this vertex. So select this one first, then Shift, and hit M and merge it last. And then we've got like our little lip. Nice. So we're just going to go nice and slow on this to make sure we're fixing everything as we go. It's a little bit of a tricky bit of geometry. I'm just going to select all of that row with X-ray turned on and hit X. You'll notice that we've got a problem here. This isn't actually connected to the wheel arch. So if we select both of these, right click and choose subdivide, and then we're going to slide up, and then if we select this one and then the new vertex second with the Shift key, hit M and merge it last, and then we're connected back up again. You can get yourself into quite a bit of confusion if you haven't got everything joined up. Let's just reset that curve, pull this one back a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look at how we're going to join everything up. So this part goes in, we don't need to worry about that at the moment. Let's fill in this section first because this will be the easiest. So I went too fast again, Control and R, and make 2 clicks, 2 new vertex with the mouse wheel, and then G twice to slide these. Hopefully by now you know exactly what I'm doing. And we're just going to connect these up. Just see if anything's looking kind of weird. I think we're going to add in these reflectors later on. I'm going to try and get the form right first, and then we can add those details in. Okay, and then what is the best way to do this? So I think the easiest way would be to, we know we're going to need another cut in there, but let's not worry about that yet. Let's connect these two up, and I'm going to select these vertices with the shift key, these ones, and then these ones as well. And they're going to hit shift and H, and we're going to have a look from the top view. And so this is our bottom curve, and this is our top curve, and we want to try and get this somewhere in the middle. So hover over this middle line, and let's bring this kind of into something like this. So we kind of made a weird S shape, but let's just check from the side view how we're looking. Something like that. And then Alt-H to unhide everything, and then we should be able to fill in this face. Let's dissolve this vertice for now. We can decide if we want to put it back in again. And I think from the way my transparency is looking, we've got some flipped faces. Yeah. So I'll select one of those three and then hit Alt-N to flip. Okay, so that's the bottom corner filled in. And now if we have a look at how many edges we've got left. Okay, let's carry on filling this in for now. So we've got one there. And then we're going to hit G twice to slide this. Put another loop cut in there. And I just want to relax this curve again. So I'll select those, Control Shift from this end to this end. Loop tools, relax, and we'll do the same thing here. So it's just going to recreate that curve even though we've added some more geometry in. And we could maybe do the same thing up here. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then we're just going to carry on filling in this face. And then you'll see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 up here. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. So we need to terminate these down here. So we'll just bring in, what do we need? 2 more edges. And then a loop cut across here, and then we should be able to just grid fill in this last section. So Control 3, sorry, it's just F3. I've got a funny little keyboard that I have to hit Control first. And then grid fill. And there we go, we've got curve of the bumper looking okay. Maybe we want to just slacken this tightness off a little bit. Nice. Let's carry on filling in this inset. Let's try and work out what's going on at the back. So we know that this wants to pull back to here. So let's start by selecting those 4. And then we're going to hit E, and we're going to pull back on the Y till it matches that vertice. And let's just weld those together. And then I'm going to hit the full stop key and choose active element, and then we're going to select this vertex first and then this one, and then hit S and then Y, and then we're going to tap 0 so that it's now the same length. And then let's do the same trick. So we want to pull this back. I think we want a slight taper, so let's, do we want a taper or does it, oh, it looks like it goes all the way back. So let's select both of these and then select this one, scale Y 0, and then we're going to put an edge in there with the F key, Control R to make a vertex, and then we're just going to fill that in. And then we need 1, 2, 3 loop cuts in here. Get them roughly in place. And 1 loop cut in the bottom here. Make sure you're selecting that edge, nothing else. Let's see if grid fill wants to work again. have a bad feeling about this one, but let's try it. F3. There's some weird craziness there. Let's just see if changing any of these will... So sometimes it just doesn't know how to... Okay, let's hit Control Z to undo that, and let's do this by hand. So I'm going to connect that up, and then we're going to create our 3 loop cuts. I'm sure there was an easier way of doing this, but we're committed now, we're locked in. And then we will select this face and go up, and we'll flip those faces in a minute. And then we'll select this quad and this quad and this one. Done. And we're just going to flip these. And let's just check that we've not got any... Let's just check this is absolutely flat. So we're going to select all of these, right click, loop tools, and choose flatten. There we go. So for whatever reason it wasn't quite flat. Nice. Okay, so I think that's that back section done. Good time to save your file, and then we'll tackle the front, and then we'll deal with the windows. And then we can start getting into detailing and making things more interesting. Cool. Okay, so we're just going to save up. Okay, so let's fix the front bumper because I've done something strange with my lines. I think I know what I've done here, but let's fix it anyway. So I'm going to select this edge, make sure you're working on the right side of the car, and then choose, hit X, and then delete edges. And then let's try and work out what we've done this. So let's bring this back to where we would expect it to be on the front bumper, and we'll just check the front view. So let's just pull all of these back into line. And then we want to connect to this edge here with this. So let's connect that in, and I think let's just try and increase this, make this curve smoother. So we've got 1, 2, 3 vertex up there, and we're going to need another one in here. So let's put in our loop cuts now, and tap twice with the G key to slide, and let's slide this one down, and then let's just see if we can smooth out this curve a little bit. So we're going to select from there to there, loop tools, relax, and we're going to give ourselves something more like that. And we're going to put in another loop cut now and slide because we know we're going to need this edge, so let's just fill this in for now to remind ourselves. So that's the first part of our bumper in. Okay, so now let's start looking for easy quads because we've got this difficult shape in the middle to fill, but we can definitely do this one and this one, and we can do the same down here. And we're going to need to flip that face, and before we go any further, let's just drag around this part of the car and hit Shift and H, so we're just working on this. You haven't got any distracting stuff going on in the background. Okay, let's see what else. We've got 2 vertices there and 1 here, so let's slide this along. We've obviously done this because we want to bring in a bit of the curve, but I think it makes sense to slide this one and dissolve this vertice, and then we can just select all of these loop tools, relax, just soften that curve a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing here, slide this along, and we'll put another loop cut in here, and then let's just select these from here to here and relax, and then we can slide again and just check we've not done anything weird. That's looking good. Okay, so let's select this face and this face, and then let's see where else we can go. So we might find that we start causing some issues with this not being on the line of the curve. So let's select this this is going to be, weirdly, this is going to be one of the trickiest bits to do. And this, and let's select that one as well, and then hit Shift and H, and we'll just view from the top. And let's see how far away we are. So I think we need to pull this further into this line. Yeah, that's looking better. Okay, so let's select those and make a quad, and then we need to flip it again. And we're going to need to put another line that runs across here. So let's put our loop cut in now, and then we can fill that part in and this part in. Just check everything's looking pretty sensible. And let's do the same at the top and see how stretched things are. And then we can make a quad here. And another one here. I don't love this, but let's fill it in for now and then work out a plan afterwards. It's always my approach. Because you might find that this looks absolutely fine once smoothing's applied. Or you might find it looks horrendous, and we could... I think we can terminate this better actually. So let's do that. I'm just going to undo this. Because I think if we put a loop cut in here and slide it down, we can at least make a quad here. So we've got one straight edge there. Yeah, that's much better. And then we could connect this to hit this to this to this. And then put another cut in here. And then we're keeping things nice and straight, because quite often with low poly things it looks bad when you've got a diagonal angle like this, and we might choose to take that diagonal angle out of here as well. Again, we'll see how it looks when it's smooth. So we've got a little bit of bumpiness here, which we'll fix in a second, but let's carry on filling around. Okay, so let's hit F to join up. I'm just trying to work out if I could get away with doing a grid fill here. Would this work? It might actually work. If we put another cut in here, let's try it. This could go horribly wrong. And make sure we finish on a corner, and then grid fill. Something is not happy there. I knew it was too good to be true. Okay, so let's use the same technique that we used on the back bumper, and we're going to make 2 cuts in there. And I just want to view just that section, so I'm going to click on this corner and then Control Shift to click on that, Shift and H, and we'll view from the top. And this, I believe, is the bottom part. Let's just double check that. I've got myself confused. Yeah, so we just want to bring this more into line as a corner. We're going to view the whole thing separately once we've roughed out our form, but okay, so we're going to select all of this. We'll try grid fill again. There we go, finally worked. So that's that section done, and that just leaves us, so we've got 1, 2, 3 there. 1, 2. There's no reason why grid fill wouldn't work. Let's try it again. And it's decided it wants to work. It's a little bit scruffy in some places, so let's fix that, because I don't love how there's some weirdness going on there. So let's select just a bumper. Like this, and hit Shift and H. And let's see what's broken here. So firstly, this has got kind of compressed up, so let's straighten that out. And we'll bring all of these into line in a second, but let's pull that down. and that down. And then we're going to use 2 to select the edge, and we're just going to shift click all the way along, and then tap the 1 key to turn it into vertex, hit S to scale on the Z axis, and tap 0 so we know we're straight. Okay, that's already better. And then just want to kind of ease this a little bit so it's got more of a flow to it. And we'll just bring this back in. So just tweaking that shape, and it's kind of something slightly tapered down here, so we just need to not continue in the flow of the curve. I'm just going to pull this over too. And let's just slide that up. Okay, and then we just need to slide this along a little bit to bring back the inset shape. Okay, it's an odd shape because, again, let's bring up our reference. See if we can see how this fog light's looking from the side. Because it's a square aperture that's kind of disappearing into the side of the. There you go. You can see that it's like comes through like that. So I think we're pretty close with that. And do I want to straighten this up? I think I'm okay with that polygon for now. I think for now, whilst we're still working everything out, we can go with this. So Alt-H to bring everything back. And we'll just check from the other views that we've got our square inset. Okay, so let's have a look at the front. So this part now, we want to select all of these, hit E to extrude backwards, and then we're going to move it on the Y-axis, and then I'm going to scale on the Z. And I've got active element selected, so let's undo that, and let's use bounding box center, scale on the Z, and then I'm going to move this up on the Z as well. And I might just slide this vertex here, tap G to pull it along so that it's less pinched there. So that's that front inset. And then for this section, I think I just want, so we're going to Alt Shift click on that. And then we're just going to pull back a little bit because we're going to fill this at some point. And then we just need to delete this edge here. And then let's do the same thing on this. So Alt Shift click on here, E to move back on the Y, and E to scale. And then I'm just going to hit F to fill that for now because we're going to cover that with another object. Great, so that is the bulk of the bodywork done. We're going to move on to doing the windows, and we'll tackle roughing out the grille, headlight, light enclosures. We've got wing mirrors to do as well. But there is the bulk of the shape of the car, and we could maybe look at doing some smoothing as well, so you can see where we're heading with that. So, time to save up again. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is apply a bit of smoothing to our body and see if we've got any issues, and to give you an impression of how the final bodywork's going to look. So, what I like to do is right click and choose Shade Auto Smooth, and things are going to look a bit weird to start with. So I'm going to take this angle in the corner, I'm going to make it 360, and things are going to look even weirder. And what we want to do now is start marking the edges that we don't want to be smoothed over, and that will help fix a lot of this weird stuff we've got going on. And this is how I make all of my game assets, to give them a low poly but kind of smoothed over look. So we're going to hit Tab, and let's start with this wheel arch, and we're going to Alt Shift with the edge tool selected up here, and we're just going to work our way around all of this line because we want all of this to be sharp. Oh. Alt Shift, and then we're going to right click and choose Mark Sharp, and then if you look, it's put in, it's defined the edge of our wheel arch. I'm going to do the same thing on this line all the way around, right click Mark Sharp, And we're just going to keep going on anything that should have a sharp angle. And you can kind of do this in an automatic way, but it never quite gives me the results I want. So unfortunately, like everything, sometimes you just have to do the hard yards. So we're just going to keep working our way around, mark sharp. This edge should be sharp. Now let's try and fix these areas because these are the most alarming at the moment. So we're going to mark this as sharp. And you'll see that's taken away a lot of the horribleness there. But we also just need to mark these corners. So not these corners, so this edge here, so Alt Shift on this edge. Mark sharp. And then we're going to select these edges as well. It's a little bit tricky to get in and see them. And mark sharp, and that should clean up that geometry for us. And you can see that all this like facetedness that we had on the side has gone now, and we've got a nice clean surface. So let's see where else we can add them. These should be sharp. And this line running along here. Let's just do this for the sake of being complete. We don't need it at the moment. And so where do we want to sharpen up here? This line here, and then this line here, which continues inside and we don't want, so we'll just Control, click those off. And we'll just take a second to look at how we're looking. So definitely starting to bring some of that shape back. And let's run this here. And this one. And then we do need to finish this off actually. I've got ahead of myself again, but we're going to crease this line because it should be creased. And I might leave the boot for now, but there should probably be a line running down there, but it's looking okay. If I tidy all of this up first. So it's this edge as well. And we'll do the same thing here. And we've got some little bumps here that we're going to need to smooth out, but let's carry on for now and we will tackle those issues. I feel like that's my catchphrase for this tutorial. Carry on for now and we'll fix it later. Mark sharp. It is kind of worth having that mentality though, because you can get really fixated on fixing an issue. And everyone wants perfect geometry, but then you put it in your scene or your game and you can't actually see it. It doesn't make any difference. And you wasted a lot of time doing that. I mean, you're better off kind of moving on, fixing where you can, working out what's the problem, because we can always, the whole point in 3D is we can always go back and fix things. Just check we're not missing any edges. I might just relax this corner, it's looking a bit pinched, so there to there, loop tools, relax, and then we'll just pull this one over. It's better, I think. You can't really see it, so it's okay. And we need this line here, which is the bonnet line. And then we definitely need this one and this one. Okay, nice. Let's go on this one. So the back's looking good, apart from this section here we will deal with. And I think we want to run this as a sharp edge. Yeah, that's better. We could maybe do the same thing here. Let's just see what happens if we, I'm just going to slide this slightly, if we bring in this boot edge. think about like how the hatchback works on the car, it would be this section. Yeah, I think that's right. It's kind of helped with some of the crunchiness that we've got going on down here. We'll just mark these as sharp too. And this should definitely be sharp. Yeah, much better. I remember, like, we are dealing with a low poly model. It's never going to be perfectly smooth, but that's part of the aesthetic. That's part of the reason that I like it. And let's also just bring in this rear spoiler. And we just want to unsharpen this edge. Cool, looking nice. The only thing that I think I want to fix is there's a bit of an ugly edge here. And I think we could just soften this whole edge off. So we're going to select this end and then Alt-Shift to select this end, and then we're going to move over to the bevel tool. I'm just going to pull it up like this. And that's going to bring in a bit of a cut, but we still need to fix this front section. So we're going to select these three. Choose Loop Tools, Relax, and it should bring back a bit of that curve. Let's just pull it up a little bit. And then with our vertex slide option selected, we're just going to slide that up to there to make a quad again. Something here that needs fixing. This is quite an easy fix, so we'll do that in a second. And let's just relax this again, and maybe this one. Nice. So we've now got more of a smoothed over bodywork, and we're not seeing all of the bumps. I think I just want to bring all of these faces up very slightly. So we'll select all four of them, because I just can't really see the all-important power bulge of the... There we go, it's a bit more prominent now. Nice, okay, so let's tackle the windows, and I'm just seeing if we've got anything else. Oh, I think we need a sharp edge there as well. Just Control Shift these away. Yeah, that's better. And let's put one in here too, just to kind of... And it's up to you where you want sharpening and not. But yeah, I think that's looking good. Okay, so now let's tackle the glass and all the other little details, and then we can start actually putting in the details. We are kind of moving towards the home stretch now. So I'm going to save again.